Welcome to the Spotlight, and thanks for joining us. I'm David Rose. As you're about to see, many survivors of sexual assault in Washington state are a long ways away from getting justice. But progress is being made. The problems first surfaced publicly in 2014. That's when a nonprofit founded by Law and Order SVU star Mariska Hargitay began sending public disclosure requests to police agencies across the country. They wanted to know how many untested sexual assault kits they had. The Seattle Police Department responded that there were more than 1,200, and that kicked off a statewide conversation.
It confirmed that we had a system that was broken, that, one of the first things I had asked law enforcement is, how would you ever catch a serial rapist?
During the January 2015 legislative session, State Representative Tina Orwall sponsored a bill requiring all backlog sexual assault kits to be tested. But first, an audit would be done to find out how many kits were sitting in evidence rooms across the state. The results were staggering.
What was happening, which is tragic, is that those kits were sitting on shelves all across our state. They were not being submitted for testing. Each one of those kits is a survivor's story.
More than 10,000 untested kits gathering dust. Snohomish and Pierce counties each had more than 1,000 kits, some more than a decade old. State Attorney General Bob Ferguson telling the Spotlight the results lit a fire under him.
The way I look at it is, what if it was my kid that happened to? I know I'd be outraged if her sexual assault kit was sitting on a shelf somewhere in some office and nobody seemed to give a damn. And so that's really what motivated me personally, that, hey, I knew there were thousands of these stories out there, thousands of those victims, and to do what we could with the resources we had to try to help.
In 2017, the AG's office was awarded $3 million in grant money to start the Washington State Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, an ambitious project aiming to reduce the backlog to zero and speed up the testing of new kits.
Not only did we want to test every kit, but we wanted to set up a system that would support survivors, that would rapidly test kits, so this would never happen again.
It's a two-prong approach, overseen by the Washington State Patrol's Crime Lab. 3 private labs have been approved to handle the backlog of kits. The Crime Lab assigned local law enforcement agencies to each private lab. The local agencies send their kits directly to the labs. The labs process the kits, then send the results to the State Patrol Crime Lab. The Crime Lab analyzes the results. If a DNA profile is found, the State Patrol uploads it to the FBI's Combined DNA Indexing System, better known as the CODIS database. As of April 7, 2022, 9,606 kits have been submitted for testing. 6,234 kits have been fully tested. Of those, 2,541 have produced usable DNA. That doesn't mean an assault didn't occur in the other 3,000 plus cases. It's possible the attacker wore a condom, didn't leave DNA behind, or that by the time the samples were taken, there was no DNA left. Of the 2,500 DNA samples that have been uploaded to CODIS, there have been 1,400 hits. More than 1,100 linked to offenders whose names and identities are listed in the database, while 270 have matched to other cases, meaning the attacker is a serial rapist who is still on the loose. While the private labs are chipping away at the backlog, a new high-throughput lab in Vancouver, Washington is handling recent cases.
We said, what we want to see is every sexual assault kit tested within 45 days. Tell us what you would need to make that happen.
High throughput means that computers and robotic equipment do most of the lab's work, freeing up time for the 11 scientists who work at the lab to do what humans do best: investigative analysis and problem solving. The scientists extract a DNA sample from the sexual assault kit, put it inside of a special tube that the robot is able to open, and then the scientists walk away. The computer-run robotic equipment handles mixing the chemicals and doing all of the readouts and printouts, tasks that used to take up most of a lab scientist's time. The high-throughput lab receives an average of 211 kits each month sent in by agencies across the state. By law, the kits need to be sent to the lab within 30 days from the time they are collected and processed within 45 days of arriving at the lab.
To submit yourself to one of these tests, it is very invasive. It is not easy, and that's putting it mildly. And we need to do our part to honor, that person who's gone through that experience, to make sure we preserve that evidence, get it tested, and then importantly, at the back end, start finding the people who committed these acts and put them away.